Hi, my name is Sharon. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Melbourne.
Hi, my name's Jess. I am 19 and I come from the city of Wollongong in New South Wales.
Hi, I'm Kristen and I'm turning 17 this year and I'm in year 11 and I live in Melbourne.
I am Tanya Stratham. I am 18 years old and I live in Brisbane, Queensland.
My name's Phoebe Worseldine and I'm just turned 18 and I live in Victoria, about 3 hours away from Melbourne.
Ever since I was a kid, I loved to read, and I specifically loved Enid Blyton books, and half my shelf is full of her stories. First time I wrote a story was in year 2. I remember writing this 2,000-word mystery story, inspired by Enid Blyton, and I was super proud of it. Ever since then, I've just loved writing, and I would say it's one of my biggest passions and hobbies in life.
I have been writing pretty much from the time I learned how to hold a pencil. My initial efforts were incredibly basic, but as I've matured and learnt more of the beauty of the English language, my writing style has developed and improved.
Started writing stories when I was about 8 or 9 probably. I've always read a lot, so that helped. I've always wanted to write my own stories after reading other stories, I suppose.
As a young kid when I just started to learn to read, because I loved being able to immerse myself in books, read books, and I'd go through books like crazy.
I've been writing stories since I was really little, but I'd always write openings for stories and never finish them, and I dream of being like a big famous writer. I like to take really big, meaty issues and kind of explore an aspect of it with a Christian perspective. I love exploring these ideas and writing about this stuff because God, because He rules the world, He has so much to say about every part of our lives. And I think it's so important that we learn how to explore the world with what He says rather than just taking the world at face value.
I normally like to write about stories that relate to my own life or where I've pulled inspiration from parts of my life and totally exaggerated it into a totally different storyline.
Language, words, written communication, these are all precious gifts from God, and we are called to use them in a way that brings glory to God. So I love to take Christian messages and themes and to weave them into storylines or poetry.
Historical fiction, because it's something that actually happened, but that I can make up the people and some of the smaller details. Because I love history so much, I love writing about it, but I can kind of make up some things how I want them to happen.
I find the aspect that's most difficult is the idea stage.
The part I find the most difficult is actually writing the story. I will do plot lines, I will do character bios, I will do world building, basically anything to procrastinate.
The proofreading and editing part of writing is probably the most difficult, I reckon. It's just, so tedious and takes sort of so long. And I kind of don't really enjoy that part of it.
I actually find the planning part of writing most difficult. Mapping out your ideas and making sure that you know where your story is going to go is really important because hitting a dead end is one of the worst feelings.
I find that I am incredibly prone to inconsistency in my writing. I write in bursts. I get on the computer and I type for hours at a time, and then I sink into a passive kind of attitude towards my writing.
Writing helps me process my thoughts and figure myself out, especially when I've had a really hard day or just a couple of incidents in my life that tend to be a little harder to process than most. And in a way, it's therapeutic, dare I say. I love being able to put words on a page and transport myself and my readers to a whole other place to enjoy.
Obviously, as a Christian, God is number one in my life, but writing is a close second. I just love it so much, so I just have to keep doing it.
I love it how I can completely create a new story and new people and just make things up, I suppose, about something that's no one's ever written anything about that before.
So writing for me is one of those things where I could go on for hours and just keep writing, and if I have an idea, I could just sit down at my computer and just type until my eyes just physically can't look at a screen anymore.
I want to be a part of the movement of Christian writers who provide valuable, God-honoring books. I want to be a part. I want to write books that bring glory to God.
One of my teachers actually had found a leaflet somewhere and had put it up on the notice board for our school.
My mum actually saw an article in the homeschool magazine about SparkLit, and it was only actually about 3 weeks before the competition closed. So I sort of had to think up something pretty quick.
I first heard about the competition at a school assembly where Michael Colley, the national director, came to introduce the competition and also encourage people to enter it. I didn't really think much about it because I had never entered a competition before, and it just seemed like a cool opportunity. The idea that winning was a possibility seemed really far off, but Michael said something that stuck with me, and that was what prompted me to enter the competition. He said to write from the heart and write about things that we were passionate about.
I have to say, it was probably one of the most exciting points in my writing career, traveling down to Melbourne and finding out that I had actually won the competition. It was a wonderful experience.
The experience at the awards night was something I'll never forget. Being shortlisted twice and having to go to that awards ceremony twice was really quite the experience. Getting that email saying you've been shortlisted, but not having any idea of where you placed, whether you were first, second, or third.
I found it really amazing that through a competition like SparkLit, I could meet so many people that were really supportive and friendly, and the whole experience was just really fun, and it was a really good night.
The effort that they put into reading what I had written and providing comments on it, it was just incredible. SparkLit has encouraged me to keep writing. They showed me that there are other people beside my loving but probably biased family who can appreciate what I have written.
Firstly, I've enjoyed just kind of being a bit of a part of it. Like, they send out really interesting newsletters and emails about different things they're doing, which I always like reading about.
It was just great to see all these other Christians that were writing these amazing stories and getting published and winning these awards, especially coming from a context where a lot of the Christian fiction I read wasn't great. And yeah, it was a world I'd never been in before, and it was just a great eye-opener and just really awesome to experience.
It's a promise, she said, that someday, in heaven, we'll go skipping together in the meadows with the butterflies. I promise. Those were the last words that she said to me. Even now, I still hold on to that promise. In the picture, I see every line that she made, the precise, firm strokes in the beautiful picture. I hold back a torrent of tears as I try to picture my mum, her flowing golden shoulder-length hair, her sapphire blue eyes and beautiful smile.
Phoebe wrapped herself tighter and placed her chin on her knees. Vivian began explaining her plan, the same one, more refined, more effective. Phoebe gazed out towards the city. Faraway gas lamps were shrouded in rainy mist. They lined the river and cast warm yellow halos around the buildings on the bank. They lit the halls of Westminster. Somewhere, there, slept Apollo, the Lord with the golden lyre. He was a secret wrapped in deep purple paper, just for her. A secret present no one must know. The voices downstairs, the members of the underground, the people of Chan. No one.
There wasn't any more water left in the dam, and the house tanks were almost empty too. It was nearly dark, but the whole sky was a terrible red colour, while in the distance smoke poured up into the sky. The wind roared in the trees and the air was extremely hot. They were both wearing masks, but it didn't help much because the smoke was so thick. Burning leaves began to fall, but they went out almost immediately when they landed on the wet grass around the house. Mick called to Belinda, "I think we'd better start putting some more things from the house into the bunker." He paused for a moment as they watched the hills in the distance. It looked as if lava was spilling down the sides where the flames were coming over the hills. Quickly they hurried into the house and started grabbing more clothes, kitchen equipment and linen.
My restless fingertips met the hem of my red plaid skirt, and I sipped the cherry Coke that was placed invitingly in front of me. Next, we have LiQWYD performing a few songs on the piano. Grunts sounded in response, accompanied by a smattering of applause which jolted me back into my surroundings. The paint-chipped walls, accompanied by the dim, vintage lights, was not a pleasant setting to be in. Although I had played the piano all my life and it aced every exam without any nerves present, my palms felt unusually sweaty, and I could feel light beads of sweat on the back of my neck. Silently cursing myself for signing up to play in a dingy bar as my first gig.
You looked so sad. Yes, that was the right word, sad. He was so desperate in his search for old watches, even to the point of asking a random stranger like Mick. It was weird. That was probably what had startled him so much when the clock man had asked whether he had an old watch. It was that, and the fact that in his bottom drawer, along with his poetry book and other meagre treasures, Mick did have an old watch. He pulled it out after dinner, and as he sat on his bed, he held it in his hand, sliding his finger along it as he had seen the clockman do. Dusty, bulky, missing its chain, Mick had never thought it particularly beautiful, but it was special to him. He was pretty sure his mom had given it to him before she died, and he felt like it was the last link between him and his family, his real family. He pressed the button at the top and the lid flipped open. It had his name engraved in delicate cursive on the inside. Michael Ian Larch, it read.
Never ever stop sharing your passion of sharing, creating, in whatever shape or form, whether that's writing, drawing, whatever it happens to be. Don't ever stop sharing it.
Stop looking at the end to when your manuscript is done, but just embrace what you're going through now, whether it's character development or world building or writing or editing or outlining or plotting, whatever. Just embrace what's going on in the moment. You are writing, you are creating things beyond your wildest dreams. And once you do that, it'll make the process easier because you're not looking at the end, you're just looking at what's in front of you. It's hard, but it's fun and it's so rewarding.
It should be something that you actually enjoy doing, so don't stress over it. If there's some things you don't like in it or you find hard to write about, just leave it for a bit and come back to it or something. It should be something you enjoy as a hobby, but if you're actually not enjoying it, it's better off just leaving it and coming back to it when you actually want to write instead of just feeling as you have to, I think.
Writing from your heart is the most important thing that you can do, because only then will it be authentic to you and the message that you want to share with others. If you are ever unsure if your writing is good enough or if you're good enough to enter a competition, never doubt yourself and always have confidence that anything can happen with the great gift that God has given you.
Not to take the words out of SparkLit's mouth, but keep on writing. Keep on writing. The gift of writing is like a language. You either use it or lose it. So never stop writing. Never give in to the urge to give up, because it's only those who keep on going that succeed. And the more you practice, the better you get. That's a basic rule of life, and it applies to the world of writing too. You keep writing.
For the first time in my life, I was scared. A quick glance at my shaking hands confirmed that I was experiencing this feeling thought to be normal, although my swirling doubts and sweaty palms said otherwise. My restless fingertips met the hem of my red plaid skirt, and I sipped the cherry Coke that was placed invitingly in front of me. Next, we have LiQWYD performing a few songs on the piano. Grunts sounded in response, accompanied by a smattering of applause which jolted me back into my surroundings. The paint-chipped walls, accompanied by the dim, vintage lights, was not a pleasant setting to be in. Although I had played the piano all my life and it aced every exam without any nerves present, my palms felt unusually sweaty, and I could feel light beads of sweat on the back of my neck. Silently cursing myself for signing up to play in a dingy bar as my first gig, my feet found their way up the small steps. As I settled onto the smooth leather seat, My eyes searched for the manager, and he gave me a half-interested thumbs up. My nerves leapt when I realized the amount of people that were in the bar, and I held my hands over the piano, willing them to plunk down on the keys and play the tune that I had played millions of times before. Seconds passed, maybe a minute, but all that time had stopped for me. All I could feel was the slight quiver of my hands and the soft sound of my shallow breathing. Why wouldn't my hands play what my brain was telling them to? Defeated, I stood up. The seat flew back as I rushed off the stage and straight towards the manager of the bar, mumbling apologies and that I wouldn't need a paycheck. My cheeks burned with humiliation, and I choked back the tears that threatened to spill out at any moment. Whipping my coat harshly around my shoulders, I stepped out into the cold, wintry evening and strode away without sparing a single glance back.
The thought of clocks caused Mick to glance up at the library clock, and he realized it was high time he headed home. He slipped the book into his bag and quietly stood. The clock man was speaking again. "Have you got or seen any recently which you think I might like, Bob?" he asked, bushy-beard. "No, but you know I'll tell you if I ever do," said Bob gently. Mick nodded politely as he passed the two. The clockman started. "Wait," he said. "What about you, boy? Do you have any old watches or clocks lying about?" Mick shook his head. "No," he said, "I'm afraid not. Have a good afternoon." He found himself shaking slightly as he left the Olumba book nook and unchained his bicycle. He wheeled it past a truck marked "Watch and Clock Repairs" and out into the car park before mounting. He took the ride even slower than usual. His heart had been causing him a lot of pain all day, and he wanted to be feeling fine when he got home. Aunt Yara would already be there, and hopefully she wouldn't be angry at the delay. As he pedaled, he thought about the clockman and his friend. What a strange man, he thought. He looked so sad. Yes, that was the right word, sad. And he was so desperate in his search for old watches, even to the point of asking a random stranger like Mick. It was weird. That was probably what had startled him so much when the clockman had asked whether he had an old watch. It was that, and the fact that in his bottom drawer, along with his poetry book and other meager treasures, Mick did have an old watch. He pulled it out after dinner, and as he sat on his bed, he held it in his hand, sliding his finger along it as he had seen the clockman do. Dusty, bulky, missing its chain, Mick had never thought it particularly beautiful, but it was special to him. He was pretty sure his mom had given it to him before she died, and he felt like it was the last link between him and his family, his real family. He pressed the button at the top and the lid flipped open. It had his name engraved in delicate cursive on the inside. Michael Ian Larch, it read. He held it to his ear, but it was silent. It had not ticked for as long as he could remember. Gently he shut it and wiped the dust from each golden groove. Tomorrow he would see what he could do about shamans, but now, as it lay heavy in his hand, he felt tired from the day's work. He flicked the light off and climbed into bed, still clutching the old pocket watch. And then, at another point in the story, there is a poem, which reads, "Lord of salvation, I cry day and night. To you let my prayer come, and hear of my plight. My soul's in distress, my life's near the grave. I do stand on death's brink, with no strength to save. Shut up in prison, in alien land, I call to you daily, stretch out my hand. How can I serve you or sing of your praise, if life is forgotten at end of my days? I am afflicted to die in my youth, abandoned by loved ones, engulfed in untruth. Where are my own friends? They're so far away. But still unto you, Lord, I will humbly pray. Though they forsake me, I'm sure that you care. So hear my soul's weeping and answer my prayer."
Belinda and Mick looked up from where they were spraying water on the grass around the house. The firefighting tank was nearly empty. They only had 3 more of their portable tanks of water left. There wasn't any more water left in the dam, and the house tanks were almost empty too. It was nearly dark, but the whole sky was a terrible red colour, while in the distance smoke poured up into the sky. The wind roared in the trees and the air was extremely hot. They were both wearing masks, but it didn't help much because the smoke was so thick. Burning leaves began to fall, but they went out almost immediately when they landed on the wet grass around the house. Mick called to Belinda, "I think we'd better start putting some more things from the house into the bunker." He paused for a moment as they watched the hills in the distance. It looked as if lava was spilling down the sides where the flames were coming over the hills. Quickly they hurried into the house and started grabbing more clothes, kitchen equipment and linen. They had already put their most important and special things in the bunker, but now it looked as if the fire wouldn't stop before it got to their place. Belinda held her breath as she saw a huge ember alight with flames, shooting through the sky and disappearing over the hill behind their property. She felt her hands shaking as she wiped the dust and ash from her forehead. Another ember and another one shot past, landing in the dry paddocks behind their farm. The air was almost unbearably hot. The smoke was so thick it stung their eyes and nearly choked them. As Mick and Belinda emerged from the bunker, they were both horrified as they saw a red glow light up the sky behind their property. "Those embers must have started another fire behind us," Mick yelled to Belinda. The noise of the wind and fire was so loud they could hardly hear each other. Flames were roaring across the dry paddocks. Trees were catching alight and embers were landing everywhere. Mick was trying to put out the spot fires as they started, while Belinda kept grabbing more things from the house and nearly throwing them down to the bunker. She was feeling sick and exhausted and she could hardly breathe. Flames seemed to be everywhere now. Mick came running towards her. "Quick, we've got to get in the bunker now," he yelled. Belinda took one last look. Flames lit up the black night, making the house look tiny against the red sky. Her heart nearly stopped beating as she saw flames lick up the weatherboard walls of their home. It was impossible to put it out. The fire was everywhere. A huge tree fell to the ground, causing flames and flying embers to go everywhere. Belinda and Mick hurriedly shut the bunker door behind them. Belinda sank down onto a chair while Mick leaned against the wall trying to catch his breath.
The room was empty. No sound, no light. Just a space haunted by the unknown now and the unknown yet. Phoebe lay in the darkness, thinking of Eliza, of the death that stood on the threshold. A cold breeze blew through the open window. It was too alluring. Phoebe slid from her bed and, pulling a blanket with her, climbed through the window onto the roof. Her roof. It was still dark, but there was sound. The faint chugging of steamboats on the river, the lapping of its polluted water. Voices from the downstairs study ebbed and flowed, debating as they planned, always planning, never acting. A foghorn hooted dismally. Vivian's voice rose into a squawk. "Men, I propose one idea and you moan that if Stephen was here, you wouldn't be in this mess. Well, you always knew that Stephen would never be here. You may as well let me speak." Now voices drowned her protests. No, you were told this when you joined." Vivian's voice rose again. "Stephen trades, I lead. Are you going to let me speak?" The voices were silent. "Okay, very well. Explain your proposal." Phoebe wrapped herself tighter and placed her chin on her knees. Vivian began explaining her plan, the same one, more refined, more effective. Phoebe gazed out towards the city. Faraway gas lamps were shrouded in rainy mist. They lined the river and cast warm yellow halos around the buildings on the bank. They lit the halls of Westminster. Somewhere, there, slept Apollo, the Lord with the golden lyre. He was a secret wrapped in deep purple paper, just for her. A secret present no one must know. The voices downstairs, the members of the underground, the people of Chan. No one.
Bored, I took out my notepad and started flipping through my pages. On the first page was my first ever sketch. Mum was a designer, and so she had bought me the sketch pad for my birthday. She started me off on drawing roses. I absentmindedly traced the outline of the flower. I noted how it was so imperfect, yet so perfect. And I recall the shriek of joy when I showed her my artwork. It was then that I had realized my true passion for art. Flipping through the pages, my eyes fell on one that had the most painful memory, a picture of a mother and child skipping through the meadows. When my mother was in the hospital, breathing her last breaths after the heart attack, she borrowed my book and drew the picture for me. "It's a promise," she said, "that someday, in heaven, we'll go skipping together in the meadows with the butterflies. I promise." Those were the last words that she said to me. Even now, I still hold on to that promise. In the picture, I see every line that she made, the precise, firm strokes in the beautiful picture. I hold back a torrent of tears as I try to picture my mum. Her flowing golden shoulder-length hair, her sapphire blue eyes and beautiful smile, the way she tossed back her hair and had a hearty laugh, or the wink she would give me when she was about to prank someone, the way her eyes would light up with inspiration for a new design, or that pouty face she would give Dad when trying to convince my dad. Oh, what wouldn't I give to see her one more time?